Hey, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking all about color theory. This has been a really highly requested tutorial and I'm very excited to bring it to you today. For this tutorial, I am using petal dusts and I'm gonna link all of the ones that I'm using or the closest color match in the description box below. You're also gonna need some cornstarch, some flat brushes, and maybe some petals to practice on too. Before we get to the video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy it and give me a thumbs up. Let's mix some colors. When you are just starting out with your sugar flowers, these are the 11 colors that I recommend you purchase. Orange, red, hot pink, violet red, red violet, violet, blue, green, yellow, and black. These are going to cover almost every single color of flower that you can imagine. As long as you get really nice saturated colors, you should be good to go, and I'm going to link my favorite ones in the description box below. I also have 4 brushes here. Most of them are a flat kind of brush that have been kind of worked to death here, but they're going to do just fine. And then I also have one kind of more round brush, which is also great. As you start dusting more flowers, you'll kind of understand the style of brush that you prefer. I want to start out with very simple color theory. All of the colors here are called hues. That is the name for any color. Next, we're going to talk about tints, and that is any color mixed with white. And we don't need white dust, all we need is some cornstarch. The next thing we need to talk about is a tone, and that is any color mixed with gray. So what you can do is add some cornstarch with your black, or alternately, you can get a gray dust. And finally, shades, and that is any color mixed with black. I recommend if you're just starting out to get a color wheel. They are so helpful when you're just starting out mixing colors. I'm going to take a little bit of each of these dusts out so we can see what they look like on the white surface, and then I'm going to mix them all together, showing you all of the different tints, shades, and tones. So let's go. Now that we've got our base colors out, let's begin mixing. So I'm just gonna start over in the lighter end of the spectrum in the yellow to yellow-orange range, and then we're just gonna work our way all the way around. And I usually have one brush for every basic color area. So this is my green brush, my yellow-orange brush, reds and pinks, and then I have this one for purples. And you'll notice I do have quite a few colors here on the purple-pink end of the spectrum because most of the colors that I use for flowers are the purple pink end. Let's start over with the yellow and bring a little bit of orange over. We're gonna mix that together just by patting it together. And you'll see we're gonna start getting a really nice gradient between the yellow and the orange. And that's how we fill out the entire color spectrum, just with the basic colors. Next, I'm going to bring a little orange over, mix it with a little bit of this pink. I do like having a pink because I find it a little bit difficult to get this color with anything else. So we've got a nice blending here. Say we want a little more orange, we just bring a little more orange there. So we've got a nice orange all the way to the pink. Now let's go into the reds. I'm gonna switch brushes because this one is more for darker hues. And we haven't added any cornstarch yet because that is just for diluting and for helping the dust go on a little bit more smoothly. So let's bring a little bit of pink over to the red. So we've got like a really beautiful gradient going on here. So look how many colors are just in this area here. We go from orange to kind of like that corally color to hot pink, and now to like a red, deep red rose color. Let's transition into the red violet and violet red. So this is really how I mix all of my colors. Sometimes I'll have more colors in between, but you can really make anything just with these basic hues. All right, so we're getting into more violet territory here. I'm gonna switch brushes again. This is the one I use for violet usually. So again, we just bring a little bit of both of these in, just dab those together to create that gradient. We're just blending until we see the color changing. And different colors will have different intensities. So sometimes you need to add a lot more, like say of the yellow versus the orange in order to get a more yellow hue. And then with these like violet colors, they are very strong. So let's say you were adding a tiny bit to yellow to make a brown color, since those are complementary colors, you would need to add just a tiny bit of the purple to the yellow, because this is very, very saturated. So we're getting into the pure violet here. And you could arguably get away with a lot fewer colors in here, but I just find it a lot easier when I have those colors pre-mixed. But if you're really starting out and you don't want a ton of colors, yeah, you can get away with a lot less. Let's move into the blues. So this violet's really strong. We need lots of blue to balance that out. All right, we're gonna need a little more blue because these colors are really strong. So bring that over because we're transitioning now into greens. So bring some green over, get that nice gradient. So this is how we just slowly mix into one color into another. We don't want it to go too far all at once, especially when I'm mixing strong colors. What I'll do is just put the really strong color on one side and have my main color that I'm mixing here. Then I just slowly add tiny, tiny bits of the strong color into the main color. So we can see how strong that green is. It's really kind of overpowering the blue. So we just need to add a little bit more blue in order to get that kind of aqua color. Now we're transitioning over to green, yellow, which is like my moss green color that I use all the time. And this is another one that you don't need the exact color, but I just use it so often that I decided that it's worth it to purchase this extra color. So now we are back to yellows. I'm gonna switch to my green brush here since we're really at the end. And a tiny bit of yellow over here. This green is gonna be really strong, so we just need to keep that in mind as we're blending. We only need a tiny bit of green in order to make that kind of chartreuse color. You see, we're almost losing the yellow here, so let's add a tiny bit more so we have a bit more of a transition. Beautiful. So we've got our entire color wheel here. And you saw we just used all of those colors. I think it was only 10 colors used in the color wheel. Now we have all of the colors on our entire color wheel ready. We can begin to blend some tints with the white, and then we can also begin to blend some shades with our black. So what I recommend is always using cornstarch. I never ever, or rarely ever use these hues, the saturated hues, because they don't apply smoothly onto your petals. Let's just start over here. Since this brush has a bit of that orange on it, I'm gonna start building out the same colors just with a tint. So I'm just transitioning slowly from the saturated color into the pastel color. And usually what I'm gonna do when I'm making lots of flowers is I'm gonna make sure I have enough of our mixed color in order to dust all of the flowers. I wouldn't make such a small batch because it's kind of hard to color match again once you've done it once. So again, we're just transitioning all of our colors into a nice tint. Let's get some pink in there. And while I'm doing this, let's talk about complementary colors. So complementary colors are any color opposite on the color wheel. And what those do is they mute down your hues. Any two complementary colors added together will create a brown hue. So if you ever need to mute down your color, all you have to do is add a little bit of its complementary color. And I will show you some examples after this. So we've got some really nice pastel kind of colors coming here. And of course, if your flowers are lighter, just add more cornstarch. I go through so little dust because you can really stretch it out just by adding some cornstarch. Switching brushes here. Usually what I would do to clean off a brush is dab it in some cornstarch. So I'm gonna just go to the greens here because then I can transition back to the blues. And what I'll say is I also rarely use a very saturated hue on a flower unless it really calls for it, because I find that often flowers are not quite as bright as you think. Maybe there's some bright spots, but nature is a little bit more subtle, I think. So I'm just blending these colors, making sure they match for the most part to what we've got up here. And I'm just gonna switch over brushes here so we get that nice yellow color. Again, the yellow gets really lost, so you have to be careful when you're blending it to add a lot of yellow. Because see, now we have like mostly yellow green and we're missing our yellow. So let's add a bit more of that. I'm gonna add it right there so we don't blend it all out completely. There are all of the tints made, so every single color with white added, and that is what I would do before applying any of these colors onto a cake. The next thing I'll show you is shades, so that's any color mixed with black, and then we're also gonna go quickly through complementary colors so you can see how they make browns. So what I'm gonna do is just bring a little bit of black to the side. Just remember the black is very strong, so you don't want to over blend that with the colors that we have here. What I usually do is just bring a tiny bit of that to the side, and then we just blend a tiny amount in to deepen it. So this is where you get some really beautiful, kind of more realistic colors, I would say. You get like almost like a rusty orangey red here, which is really beautiful. And then we're transitioning here into like more of a purplish pinkish color that is more muted down. And remember, be very careful with your yellow because you can easily overblend that with a dark color. So usually, like I'm making a big batch of something for flowers, let's say. I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of black on the side like this, and then I'll just dab at the very, very corner of my brush in order to get just a touch of black to mute that down. So we're going into like really nice deep purples here, like eggplant colors, going into dark aqua colors here. Hopefully this is opening kind of your perspective on how many colors you really need in your coloring drawer. I know as soon as I started learning more about color theory, I definitely stopped using a lot of the colors in my drawer. We need just a touch more black to make it all the way around. So we've got some beautiful forest greens in here, and those would be great for Italian ruscus, any other dark greenery you're making, or even on some petals, you see some really nice dark green parts. So again, keep in mind as you go around, you want to be a little bit more sparse when you get to these lighter, more gentle colors like the yellow, the moss green. There are all of our tints, all of our shades, and then of course if you wanted to make tones, which is just the color mixed with gray, all you would do is add a little bit of black and then a little bit of cornstarch, and you're there. The last thing I want to touch upon today is complementary colors and making browns. Just so you can see it in action, how it works. I'm gonna bring a little bit of, let's do red and green, since I have so many reds and so many greens here. Let's just bring a little bit of that over to here. So I'm taking the nice saturated hue there. Let's go right across the color wheel into the green. Let's not contaminate that. Let's blend those together. So this is going to be turning into a nice burgundy color first, since we have more red. Let's add more green. And this should take us into a more brown hue. Just a touch more green and I think we'll be there. Also depends on the brown color that you need. Sometimes you need a very dark brown, in which case what I would do is add a little bit of that black, make a nice shade, deepen it down a bit. Then you just need to adjust depending on what you're making. Let's try one more, just for fun. Let's do orange and blue. Since those are kind of weaker colors, I'm not gonna take from here. I will just bring a little bit to the side and some blue. And let's blend those together. I think we're probably gonna need a little more orange. So this is a really cool kind of brown color right now. Let's add a touch more of that orange. So the way I use these complementary colors in actually dusting petals, because sometimes we don't have brown petals per se unless they're dried. Let's say we have a purple petal that's a little bit more dull than the bright violet that we have. I'm just gonna mix in its complementary color of yellow, maybe some yellow orange, depending on the look we want, and then we can mute that down into a nice brownish hue, but it's not going to be brown if you have majority one color or another. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me in the comments below what color you want to see me make using color theory next. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this one, and give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.